£12,700 towards new wheelchairs and equipment to provide injured soldiers with the opportunity to play rugby league.
Into the Midlands, Derby City Rugby League Football Club have had £2,500 towards equipment to help grow the junior section and give young people the opportunities to play rugby league.
Yep, up into the North East, Newcastle Magpies, RLFC, had £6,400 awarded to a brand new rugby league club in the area towards kit and equipment to support the creation of the new club and its teams.
Newcastle Rugby Foundation have had £12,900 to create and develop a new wheelchair rugby league team under the banner of Newcastle Thunder.
Yep, in the southwest, Swindon St George Rugby League was awarded £4,293.74 towards rugby purse for their new ground, as well as other essential rugby league playing equipment to assist their mini and junior sections get up and running.
I enjoy the specifics.
You'd think that they could have given them that extra 26 pence, really, wouldn't you?
The specifics of every penny being spent well is important here. Yorkshire and Catterick Crusaders have seen £4,300 given towards kit and equipment to increase the number of young people playing across the under 14, 15 and 16 age groups.
Yep, Forge Valley School in Sheffield had £2,100 to support school games organisers across South Yorkshire with equipment to run and develop tag rugby league competitions.
Greetland All-Rounders have had £540 towards equipment for a new girls under 14s team and to improve participation at under 12s level as well.
Yep, Illingworth ARLFC in Halifax has had £11,750 to purchase and convert storage to changing rooms for the club's growing junior boys and girls teams.
And the Wibsey Warriors in Bradford have had £4,370 paid towards rugby league equipment to support the sustainability of the club and allow for future growth.
Excellent. It's really encouraging, actually, isn't it, to see how much is being given towards the wheelchair rugby league development.
I think when you look at all of it, it's important to talk about all of the projects, I think, because it's got those different facets to it, hasn't it? There's broadening who's able to play our game by helping increase participation for the wheelchair format of the game, and so many of these projects are also about kids rugby league as well, and making sure that there is, funding in those pathways, and there's girls specific awards towards girls rugby league sides as well. It's all helping increase participation of our sport.
Yeah, and the fact that it goes right down to like under sixes being actually named, because so often it's like, well, we'll work with the under 12s or the under 13s or whatever, but to go right down to under sixes is brilliant.
Yeah, no, I think it's fantastic. Yeah. So that's the news for this week. We're now going to move on to Super League match reviews. It's time for Super League match reviews then, and it was round 8. It feels like forever ago that we had any other sort of normal round, and this is the closest we're going to get to seeing normal rounds again. 5 games to go through this week. Before we go through all the games, we'll just talk on sort of generally around one of the talking points, I suppose. And last week, Israel Folau stood out as the sort of person who clearly didn't take the same approach to the Black Lives Matter gestures that other people did last week. This week it was a different experience, and Israel Folau would probably be hoping that other teams played last weekend, that played this weekend potentially. But this weekend we saw a range of different approaches. We saw a lot more people not taking the knee but showing their sort of solidarity in different ways. We saw, I suppose, what would be suggested as maybe the most coordinated approach in the Wakefield versus Wigan game, where the Wakefield team all chose to stand linked armed rather than take the knee, apart from David Fafita, who joined with Bevan French in sort of making a gesture of solidarity towards the Aboriginals in Australia. and then different teams or different groups of players taking different measures. So it wasn't just one person that we'd be talking about this week, and it wasn't just be one person who has stood out for negative reasons in the past as well that we'd be talking about this week. It was a whole range of different people. So, what did you think of the general approach this week? Did you think it was a more rounded kind of a approach and stuff like that, Sarah?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was nice to see that there was what felt like a little bit more freedom for the players to behave in ways that they felt appropriate. I mean, like the Warrington players, they all were in the circle, weren't they?
That's right, yeah.
Together.
Yeah, and obviously we don't know specifics of individuals' stances that they took around this. We didn't even had it confirmed around Israel Folau's, but we understand a lot of people take it as a sort of religious thing in terms of they wouldn't want to be forced to kneel for a cause that isn't sort of towards their God, which I know I'm not a religious person, so it wouldn't be really fair of me to be hugely critical or anything of that approach without understanding it. Sarah, you are a more religious person than me, so you have some sympathy, obviously, with the idea of praying to God being what kind of like a great significance and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I try to be fairly open that I am a Christian, and I do believe that there are some things that are right and some things that are wrong, and bowing before another god, however you view that, is not something I would be comfortable doing.
Yeah, and there's other people who have different reasons that the more specific Black Lives Matter group have things that certainly not everyone would agree with in maybe some of their wider ideologies, outside of just seeking equality and things like that. So there's other things to be learned there. The most interesting approach, I think, was the Wakefield approach, Sarah, this week, and they kind of them and Warrington came out ahead of it by sort of reaffirming that if anyone chooses to demonstrate their solidarity against racism in a different way to what maybe is expected, then they're still against racism. And Chris Chester kind of gave a bit more insight around the Wakefield position as well, saying that as a group they maybe didn't feel like they'd had enough education yet on the movement, on the issues and that sort of angle to it, which I think is I think it's a positive in the way that one, we've had an explanation there that why they've looked to do something different but done it together, and two, there's a progression of the conversation there in that mind. There's people looking to be educated about the effects of racial discrimination, and if they didn't necessarily understand it or experience it themselves, they're looking to learn more. And I think that approach at least is moving the conversation forward, which just kind of some of the other things that have happened don't move the conversation forward necessarily. And Israel Folau, with some of the things that have happened in the past himself, maybe isn't someone who you would want to use as someone who moves your conversation forward for you, because it's just been hard to get on board with other things is believed or said in the past. Whereas when the Wakefield team came out with their sort of statement, it maybe helps people learn this more, look into it more, and become better educated and realise that people are seeking to end, injustice, discrimination, oppression, which none of us want, whether that person be Christian or otherwise. Sarah, is that fair?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think it's a very difficult thing, and obviously I think a large number of, well, probably a lot of people that have, whatever our personal backgrounds are, I suspect, most of us are are white and probably haven't experienced that level of
that type, I think, that type of discrimination,
my friend is her parents moved over here from Nigeria, and she's one of 4. She has 3 brothers, and used to fear when her brothers went out that they would be arrested simply for being young black men in London. And I mean, she's 50 now, so this is going back 20-30 years, but I suspect that not a lot has changed. But I think that these things need addressing way down the system, as in at a younger age. And like Wakefield say, it's about educating people and not necessarily, fair enough, putting a flag up, Black Lives Matter, that's not what's going to change anything. It is the education of people, and
we need more of the kind of piece that we had with the Huddersfield players and less of the talking about whether a player has taken a knee or not. Is kind of what you're saying there around that kind of. Is that right? Is that fair? A fair sort of.
Yeah, I mean, this is a slight tangent, but as many of you know, my husband is very high up in his personal field, and he has coordinated an international conference. Now, a number of people recently they put out an advert, if you want, for people to speak at the conference. Now, they've not had any applicants from anybody other than white men, possibly white female women as well. I'm not 100% certain on that. There are people who are saying that they are going to boycott the conference because there are no black men speaking. But at what point can Peter intervene and do something if nobody has applied? And then the argument is, well, the black men haven't had the same opportunities. So it's at what stage do you intervene and say we need to do more for this community?
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing. We need to be giving these people the opportunities, whether it's in schools or in community clubs. But it's often very hard to get them involved in those games.
I think this is why it's so important that the issues are highlighted and the conversations are had, and you push aside some of the politics and other aspects of it, and talk more about the human aspect of it, and you're encouraging more people to come out in more ways to fulfill all their individual potential, and you're not restricting those people's potentials because of the colour of their skin from an early age, isn't it? So that's why there is some relevance to the conversation. But you're right, the change needs to be way more fundamental than protests being made. But protests get the conversation started, I suppose. So there's an interlinked element to it. I look at it that any disenfranchised people shouldn't be looking at the other disenfranchised people to be the enemy, to be the problem, and we should all be supporting each other's causes, rather than being conditioned to think that we have to miss out if someone else's cause gets some attention this week, sort of thing. So hopefully the conversation and the education can keep moving forward, and like you say, real change can start to happen. However, people want to put their own personal demonstration of that. I think we're seeming pretty consistent that most of the people, whether they've knelt, whether they've held a fist in the air, whether they've held a flag or what have you, are against racism, and that's the most important thing, I suppose.
Yeah. But it's every ism, isn't it?
Yeah. So let's help support each other and make the world a nicer place for everyone. Right, Rugby League. First game of the weekend to talk about was Castleford versus Catalans. Sarah, it was 14 points to 16 at half time. Castleford were actually 14-0 up as the first half trundled along, but it finished